Okay, good afternoon, everyone. We have our good friend Murad back again, and I'm intrigued by this title. Whose night journey was it? Debunking Muhammad's night journey myths. So I'd pass it on to you, Murad. Tell us what you've got to share with us.
Yes, you see, the most important story for Islam is Muhammad's night journey from Mecca or from Medina. I'm not sure actually, but from Saudi Arabia all the way to Jerusalem. And then he went to the seven heavens and he took the deen between two quotations, and he knows now how to pray. He was with Moses, and he told God to make a discount because praying 50 times will be too much. So they lowered it down to 40, 30, till they got it to five, which they now Muslims pray five times.
Yeah.
So in this presentation, I will say that actually the verse which is usually on Muhammad, it's not speaking about Muhammad whatsoever.
Wow.
So when we start the presentation, we have to look at the Quranic internal evidence first. So I have put a few verses here, and I will ask you to read them so that we see who is the Quran actually referencing.
Okay.
So this is the first verse.
Okay. And we inspired to Moses, travel by night with my servants. Indeed, you will be pursued. Surah 26:52.
Yes, this is the Sahih International Translation, which I don't like, but still, we will get the idea. And this is another verse. Could you read it?
Yeah. And we had inspired to Moses, travel by night with my servants and strike for them a dry path through the sea. You will not fear being overtaken by Pharaoh, nor be afraid of drowning. Surah 20:77. So in both those cases, the traveling by night is in reference to Moses, which I wasn't even aware of that verse actually.
Yes, it's Moses taking his people, who are the Israelites, out of Egypt. So in Arabic, we say, Ya Musa, isri bi'ibadi laylan. This is exactly how we say it in Arabic. And this is the third verse.
Allah said, then set out with my servants by night. Indeed, you are to be pursued. Surah 44:23.
Yes, in the Arabic, they're exactly the same. That's why even here in Sahih International, you have the exact same wordings. Ya Musa, isri bi'ibadi laylan. Take my people by night. So
Wow.
here we have to look at Surah 17 because it underwent a name change.
Wow.
You see, Ibn Ashur's commentary informs us that it was called Surah Bani Israel, which means Surah of the children of Israel.
Yeah.
So you have this in the Islamic books, and people can research that this surah had went a name change. It was called Surah of the Israelites. Moses is mentioned in the Quran 136 times. And I have got a picture for you here. This is a picture from a Quran, which is today, you can buy it. And you have here Bani Israel, as you see with the marker. And here it's Subhanallazi Asra Abdihi Laylan. As you see, this is what we call now Surah Al Isra, or the night journey.
So just to
It's
be clear, what is this surah called nowadays? It's not
it's
called Bani
called,
Israel.
no, in Arabic now it's called Surah Al Isra, which means the I don't know, they say it's the night journey, but Al Isra in Arabic, it
Yeah.
could simply mean the walking or traveling, something like this. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be flying.
Yeah.
But this is the English translation, so I don't like it. But as you see here, I know that Hatun Tosh, she always looks at the differences between the mushafs, and now she has over 30. So I want to know How many mushafs today have it as Bani Israel with the original name? You see?
And I suppose the thing that I'd be curious is why the name change. It's not just that it was changed, but why? Because it seems a very significant change to make, just on the face of it.
As we go through this presentation, I will offer an explanation.
Yeah.
So, whose night journey was it? It says in Arabic, Abdu. Abdu is his servant, and the Quran never names him. I don't know why some translations stuff Muhammad in there. It just says his servant. Whose servant is it? You can read the verse, which is the controversial one. If you can read it, this is the one they say that it has to do with Muhammad. Could you read
Yeah.
it?
Exalted is he who took his servant by night from al-Masjid al-Haram to al-Masjid al-Aqsa, whose surroundings we have blessed, to show him of our signs. Indeed, he is the hearing, the seeing. Surah 17:1.
So as you can see here, it is the exact same words that is in Arabic.
Yeah.
So his servant is none other. See,
Moses.
there is no other thing to think about this.
Yeah.
There is no logical thing to say. It is Moses taking his servants by night from Al-Masjid al-Haram to Al-Masjid al-Aqsa, and God showed his signs there. We will see it, of course, now. What is Al-Masjid al-Haram and what is Al-Masjid al-Aqsa?
Yeah.
So do you have any question before we move on?
No, well, it now starts to make sense because we show him of our signs. Obviously, there's loads of miracles on the journey, and when they get to actually one of the most important places, if obviously I don't know what you're planning to tell me, but one of the most important places is the Negev Desert, where Moses went, presumably after crossing the Red Sea. So, and this is the location for Mount Sinai and everything, So I'm really intrigued by what you're going to tell us.
You see, Mount Sinai, we have multiple theories. Some people say that it's in Saudi Arabia, which is Jabal al-Lawz.
Yeah.
And Ron Wyatt is one of the archaeologists who holds this idea. But here, this is not really what we are trying to focus on. I just want to say as a side note here something that has nothing to do with what we are saying. This word, our signs,
Yeah.
in Arabic, this is ayatina.
Yeah.
Because the fraud people who say that the abrogation verse, no, it's called ayat, and here it's sign. It's the same word. This
Yeah.
is just a side note. So now, Masjid al-Haram. You see, to understand the Quran, you have to be very careful and you have to know the Bible very well. This is a verse from the Bible, Exodus. It says, "And he said unto the elders, Tarry ye here for us until we come again unto you. And behold, Aaron and Hur are with you. If any man have any matters, do let him come unto them." This same place in Exodus, and he said, "Draw not nigh hither. Put off thy shoes from thy feet, for the place where you stand on is holy, holiest ground." The Quran here echoes the same thing if you can read this one.
Indeed, I'm your Lord, so remove your sandals. Indeed, you are in the sacred valley of Tua, Surah 20:12.
You see the word Toa, you could just ignore it because this is it's not right from the manuscripts.
Yeah.
It's a mistake. It's simply the same thing that the Exodus is referencing. So you see the Quran here, it keeps going around the same idea.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you can read also these two verses, it strengthens the idea these are from Exodus.
Okay. And thou shalt set bounds unto the people round about, saying, Take heed to yourselves, that ye go not up into the mount, or touch the border of it. Whosoever toucheth the mount shall be surely put to death. There shall not an hand touch it, but he shall surely be stoned or shot through. Whether it be beast or man, it shall not live. When the trumpet soundeth long, they shall come up to the mount. Exodus 19, 12, 13.
Yes. You see, the word masjid in Arabic, it means the place where you bow down.
Yeah.
And you have some legendary stuff saying that the people, when they went at Mount Sinai, they bowed down right away because of all the signs and the miracles and stuff. Al-Haram, it doesn't have a true meaning in Arabic. It could just mean like the place which has no upper firmament or something.
It doesn't mean the forbidden place, no? It hasn't that meaning?
This is the Arabized meaning today. Yes, today it
Yeah.
means the forbidden.
Yeah, okay.
But it just doesn't mean anything in the original Syriac.
Yeah.
So I say simply Al-Masjid Al-Haram is Mount Sinai.
Yeah.
And this we will prove as we keep going on. Now, this is Mount Sinai. So this is Al-Isra. Moses went to Mount Sinai with his people. Now
Yeah.
let's look at another concept in the Quran, which is the ascensions. People who were lifted to heaven. The Quran knows this. He knows Enoch, which is called in the Quran Idris. Enoch is the ancestor of Noah, if you know.
Yeah.
And here there is a Quranic verse that says, and mentioned in the book Idris, which is Enoch, indeed he was a man of truth and a prophet, and we raised him to a high station. So this is the idea that God lifted Enoch all the way up to show him everything from above. The same idea is in the book of Enoch. This is Enoch's ascension.
Yeah.
Here we also have the Assumption of Mary. The Assumption of Mary is a strange idea, but it is in the Quran.
Wow, that's amazing. Wasn't even aware of that.
Yes. Here it says, and we made the son of Mary and his mother a sign and sheltered them within high ground. The word high ground in Arabic, it could mean a high ground or a high place. Even here in Sahih International, it says having level areas. So that she was lifted high and flowing with water. Now you see, this is called the Book of Mary's Response. The earliest version of this Apocrypha are preserved in Syriac manuscripts of the 5th and 6th centuries. Although the text itself probably belongs to the 4th century, and I want to know your opinion about this.
So you're saying that there is a reference to the Assumption in Syriac manuscripts?
Yes, from the 5th and 6th century.
Yeah. Well, I was only looking at multiple stories today in the Quran that are from Syriac sources, so this would not surprise me at all, actually. It's an unusual inclusion, to put it lightly, in the Quran.
Yes. So
it's actually there. It's actually, just to go back there for a moment, it's actually saying both Jesus's ascension as well as Mary's assumption there, if I read it correctly.
Yes.
So it's connecting both of them. And I presume this is included to suggest that the same happened to Muhammad, or will do. Would that be right?
I don't know, but I'm not sure. But as you can see, the Quran holds many apocryphal ideas.
Yeah.
So it's strange that it has this similar idea. And as you can see, it's in the Syriac 5th and 6th century. So you have something which is very close. Maybe actually it was, maybe these Syriac manuscripts was Qurans in itself. You know?
Yeah, I would say one thing else before we move on is that in my study recently, what's coming very clear is that there was some form of Judeo-Christian sect that was really the basis for Islam. And I would suggest that this title for it is actually not probably the best title because it has a different meaning nowadays. So maybe Mosaicism might be a better way of putting it. In other words, it's kind of a sect that's focused on Moses a lot because it's very much into the Torah and everything connected to that, as well as having a belief in Jesus as a servant. So it's kind of a mixture of the Old Testament and some belief in the New Testament, if that makes sense.
I know that there are also sects like the Ebionites and the maybe the Hebrews or something, but I'm not sure. I think Islam is still a little different. Maybe
Yeah.
these were the basis or something.
Yeah, I think it was the building block. It got adapted at a later stage, but yeah, this is fascinating stuff, Murad.
We will see which is the Aqsa Mosque, and maybe this will strengthen what we are saying.
Yeah.
So, what is Al-Aqsa Mosque? Al-Aqsa in Arabic, it simply means the one which is far, farther, nothing more than that.
Yeah.
Why don't we look at the Babylonian Talmud? You know, Babylon and Iraq, and the Iraq hypothesis and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Menachut 29b 3 to 5. And if you can read this.
I'll read it, yeah. Rav Yehuda says that Rav says, when Moses ascended on high, he found the Holy One, blessed be he, sitting and tying crowns on the letters of the Torah. Moses said before God, Master of the universe, who is preventing you from giving the Torah without these additions? God said to him, there is a man who is destined to be born after several generations, and Akiva ben Yosef is his name. He is destined to derive from each and every thorn of these crowns, mounds upon mounds of halakot, and it is for his sake that the crowns must be added to the letters of the Torah. So it's just a marginal question. Was this written in Hebrew or Aramaic?
This is in Hebrew.
This is in Hebrew, okay.
But you see, the Babylonian Talmud, there was also an Aramaic version of it. There is the Aramaic Talmud.
Yeah.
So I got this from the Hebrew, because as you see, there is Hebrew above.
Yeah, yeah.
But there is the Aramaic Talmud, and most of the Quran actually comes from this, the Aramaic Talmud.
Yeah.
So what's interesting here is this passage. Rabbi Yehuda said that Rav says, when Moses ascended on high, he found the Holy One. So Moses here has an ascension himself.
Yeah.
And actually, there was also the ascension of Moses, just like the ascension of Mary, an apocrypha also that was maybe in the 2nd century or stuff. So it is still in the Babylonian Talmud. So the idea that Moses went up high as a night journey all the way to the sky, it's here.
Wow.
And very interesting here is this story. And God said to him, there is a man who is destined to be born after several generations, and Akiva ben Yosef is his name, and he will get the halachot. This is the story of the same story as Bukhari and his student called Al-Marwazi. Marwazi. So it is the exact same thing here. Akiva ben Yosef here is like the student of Bukhari. So the people who made the Bukhari definitely had this background, which is Babylonian Talmudic. Now
Right.
we can go on.
Yep.
Yes, you can read this one.
Moses said before God, Master of the universe, show him to me. God said to him, return behind you. Moses went and sat at the end of the 8th row in Rabbi Akiva's study hall and did not understand what they were saying. Moses' strength waned as he thought his Torah knowledge was deficient. When Rabbi Akiva arrived at the discussion of one matter, his students said to him, my teacher, from where do you derive this? Rabbi Akiva said to them, it is a halakha transmitted to Moses from Sinai. When Moses heard this, his mind was put at ease, as this too was part of the Torah that he was to receive.
You see here, it is a halakha transmitted to Moses from Sinai. Here again you have like the Bukhari story. You have that Muhammad, when he went up, he came back with how to pray and all this stuff. This is like the halakha, Jewish halakha. This is what you do, how you practice your religion. The same idea. So here Moses went up and got the halakha, which is the written Torah. Because you see the Talmud, of course, there are people who say it is not inspired. So they say, no, this is the oral Torah.
Yeah.
So this is the exact same idea.
Wow.
Yes. And this is the last passage. If you can read this one.
Moses returned and came before the Holy One, blessed be he, and said before him, Master of the universe, you have a man as great as this, and yet you still choose to give the Torah through me. Why? God said to him, be silent. This intention arose before me. Moses said before God, Master of the universe, you have shown me Rabbi Akiva's Torah. Now show me his reward. God said to him, return to where you were. Moses went back and saw that they were weighing Rabbi Akiva's flesh in a butcher shop. Is that the Makulan? As Rabbi Akiva was tortured to death by the Romans. Moses said before him, Master of the universe, this is Torah, and this is its reward. God said to him, be silent. This intention arose before me.
Yes, so you see here, the important point is God said to him, return to where you were. So Moses, when he ascended on high, as we saw in the first passage, he got the halakha,
Yeah.
and he then returned down. If you look at other commentaries that I didn't include here, this rabbi says that Moses went to the heaven which is like the New Jerusalem. So
Yeah.
you see, in English, you say New Jerusalem. And I
Yeah.
think this is in the last chapter of the Bible,
Yeah.
which is Revelation. Al-Aqsa is simply New Jerusalem. In the Quran, this is what the Quran intentionally wanted to say before it got hijacked and Arabized. And I want to know your opinion.
Okay, so we're so really what it means is that it's talking about the place where he ascends to in heaven. He's not talking about physical Jerusalem, but a paradise location that he ascends to. Am I reading it right?
Yes, exactly. So
Well,
Moses took his people, went to Mount Sinai, ascended on high, took the halakha, came down. So he went to the heavenly Jerusalem, or heaven, as you can say.
so Moses is going from Mount Sinai and ascending to heaven, basically, which is Al-Aqsa, and then returning. That's
Exactly. Of course,
wow.
this never happened. This is
Yeah.
Talmudic rabbinic literature.
Yeah.
But the Quran takes a lot of this rabbinic literature, as we know in other places. So the Quran, you have that it says that the golden calf, it had sound. And it says that it was Al-Samiri, which is the Samaritan. Actually, this is, if you look at the old manuscript, it could be read as Samael, which is the devil, name of the devil.
Yeah.
So these are rabbinic literature. And it says that Samael, when he went into the calf, he started making noises to lead astray Israel. So the Quran knows the Talmud very well. So it is not strange that he takes this idea also.
Wow, I'm dumbstruck actually, because this should suggest that all of these passages have been taken from text that was originally devoted to Moses, and they have edited them, and maybe just through juxtaposition sort of led people to believe that they were actually about Muhammad when actually they were about a completely different subject.
See, the Quran mentions Moses 136 times.
Yeah.
That's why when he said his servant, he doesn't name him because it's easy to assume. You know
Yeah.
who we are talking.
Yeah. Like if there was no, like there's only one mention of Muhammad, but if there was no mention of Muhammad, you would have to assume that they're talking about Moses, because who else are they talking about?
Exactly, and the surah's name was Children of Israel.
Yeah.
So what do you expect?
Yeah.
Now,
Wow.
I will move on to a proof that it could never be Muhammad from the Quran. As you can see, we are here interpreting the Quran using internal evidence only. Why? Because the Quran says so. And you can read this. Tell me, what do you think of it? This is in
I'll,
the same surah, by the way. This is the
yeah.
same surah, Surah 17, but verse 93.
Or you have a house of gold, or you ascend into the sky, and even then we will not believe in your ascension until you bring down to us a book we may read. Say, exalted is my Lord. Was I ever but a human messenger? Surah 1793.
Yes, so you see here, if this is Muhammad, which says, "Was I ever but a human messenger?" Of course, they say that this is Quraysh when they were speaking with him, and he said, "I cannot ascend into heaven. I'm just a messenger." So here, if we assume that this is Muhammad, this kills the idea.
Yeah, he's
And
saying it's not possible for him to ascend because he's just a human messenger.
yes, and here, as you can see, we read the Talmud now. We will not believe into your ascension until you bring down to us a book that we may read, which is the Halakha. Remember,
Yeah, yeah.
Akiva ben Yusuf. So here, this is the Moses story again. Why it could never be Muhammad? Because also you have contradictions. Was it a dream or was it physical? The Islamic sources simply don't know. See, the Islamic sources, sometimes it says it's a dream. So what is it?
Yeah.
There is no archaeological or historical proof that backs it up whatsoever. Yes, you may have that Muhammad went to Jerusalem some way or another, but it never mentions that he went to the seven heavens and he went to Al-Aqsa and went to Dome of the Rock, nothing like this. The inside mosaics of the Dome of the Rock does not have this verse carved, when it should be obviously the most important verse ever. What do you think? If this is the miracle that you went from heaven from here, you should have
Yeah.
this verse as a mosaic.
Yeah, they would have if it was meant to have happened in Jerusalem and so on, and this is connected with Muhammad, they would be boasting about it, surely.
Exactly. So why isn't it there?
Yeah, excellent argument.
The Quran never mentions it. You see, the Quran, it may be mentioned that Muhammad went from Mecca to Jerusalem. If we assume this is right, now we see it's Moses. But the other thing is the Quran never mentions that Muhammad went to the seven heavens, which is called Al-Mi'raj. This is never in the Quran.
Yeah, yeah.
In fact, it mentions the opposite, which is the verse that we saw a while ago.
And also the other thing that's a key point is the fact that wherever you have similar phrases in the Quran, it's clearly about Moses. So we can only assume that um, it's meant to be about Moses again when a similar phrase is used.
Exactly, it's just so easy to figure it out.
Yeah.
Now, let's know what's the Shia opinion about Al-Aqsa and the Dome of the Rock and Jerusalem in general. Because I was listening to a sheikh and he says very clearly from their sources. Surprisingly, the Shia do not venerate Al-Aqsa at all. They say it is a Abd al-Malik fraud to divert people to Jerusalem.
Wow.
Yes, this is what they say in their books, the 12 Imams and stuff. And Bala, if he's listening, he can confirm this even more.
Wow, that's amazing. Because actually, if I can just jump in before you say anything more, is there's physical evidence for this in that there's 4 milestones that has been discovered since 1902 to do with the pilgrimage route to Jerusalem. So this confirms the idea that Abdul al-Malik was encouraging people to go to Jerusalem, and the Shia are resisting this. Yeah, so that's
Yes, you
excellent.
see the Shia. The Shia is more like the Lahmid, Iraqi, Iran
Yeah,
sort of people, not really the people of Damascus and stuff.
yeah,
This is what we feel always.
yeah. That's cool.
According to them, the Prophet ascended into heaven. They point by their finger, and this is what I saw actually the Sheikh saying. They point by their finger from the ground up to the sky. As simple as that.
Yeah,
They say Subhanallah the asra ba'abdihi. So exalted the one who took his servant, and then they point with their hands down to the floor, then to the sky. Just that. Nothing else. So
yeah,
it's all from here up to heaven. And this strengthens the idea of the ascension.
yeah. It's cool.
Now, you know the creature that Muhammad flew on is a Greek creature because in the Arabic it says that it's something bigger than a donkey and smaller than a horse, and it flies. And people do not know what this is. But since we are looking at the Greek influence, the Hellenization and stuff,
Yeah.
and Muawiyah that he was speaking Greek and stuff, this mythical creature is called Pegasus. This is like the one Hercules was riding.
Oh my God, I never made that connection before, and it's obvious once you've said it.
Yes, you see,
Yeah.
this is very easy. So did Abdul Malik come up with this idea? This is just a question. I don't know. I'm just asking.
Yeah. So
Uh,
presumably, maybe the idea of the night journey being to do with Muhammad was developed by Abdul Malik to encourage pilgrims to Jerusalem. But here's the problem. Um, it seems like on the face of it that it was always intended to be about Moses, or was it that if you look at the first edition, let's say it was clearly about Moses, but maybe in later editions of the Quran, um, it was trying to be for Muhammad. And how long later was that? It mightn't have been Abdul Malik's time. It might have been a couple of generations later, maybe. I don't know.
yes, because you see, the surahs, they had no names. So when it was called Surah Bani Israel, uh, they were brave enough just to change it to Al-Isra, but they were not brave enough to change the word his servant to Muhammad because they know deep in their heart that it is not directed to Muhammad.
Yeah. So just to add to what you've said, Murad, I have this quotation from Epiphanius, who was a writer back in 375, and he says the following in relation to people of Petra. He says, the natives of Petra in Arabia, which is called Rokum and Edom, were in awe of Moses because of his miracles. And at one time they made an image of him and mistakenly undertook to worship it. They had no true cause for this, but in their ignorance their error drew an imaginary inference from something real. So this is suggesting there was a cult around Moses in the 4th century, which presumably lived on to the time of Islam and became the basis of Islam, perhaps.
Yes, as you see, this is a very strong indication of what we were saying, and it also confirms that the Quran is speaking about Moses one way or another, because the Quran, definitely parts of it was written in Petra, because when it was speaking about the people of Lot, it says that you go around them day and night. So it was written in this area.
Yeah,
So there is no problem that this cult went into the Quran.
And just in passing, in Epiphanius's account, he actually includes Rokim or Rakim for Petra as the alternative name for Petra. And we find that word in Surah 18, verse 9, in the cave of the companions.
Al-Raqim, it has a little more depth than that.
Yeah.
The word Al-Raqim, just as a word in Aramaic, I heard this from Gabriel Sauma.
Yeah.
It means a rock that is inscribed. So not just a rock.
I heard that, but I think that's a mistaken inference. That's has often been a translation of it, but I think that's wrong. I think it's actually about the city of Petra, but we can disagree on that one. But
No,
yeah,
let me tell you.
There's an Aramaic basis to it. Well, that's interesting.
Yes. The Aramaic word, it just means something inscribed on rock. So these people, when you say Ashab al-Kahf wa Raqim,
Yeah.
it means people of the cave and their names inscribed. Because the original story of the people of the cave is in Ephesus, which is in Turkey.
Yeah.
So it has nothing to do with Petra. Later, Petra was called Al-Raqim. Later, in Josephus and stuff, later. So
That's
you have to be careful.
No, that's you're inaccurate on that one, because Rakim is from Nabatean times, whereas that story is much later. So the story of the people in the cave is actually much later than the name for Petra is Rakim. Rakim is from Nabatean times. So it's going from 2nd century BC.
Yes, but you see, where did the Quran get the story of the people of the cave? He got it from Yaqub of Suruj, and it is right in Ephesus. It's called Seven Sleepers of Ephesus.
Oh yeah, no, I agree with that bit. I think those
the 7 places.
Yeah,
I think 7 holes. Yes.
Yeah, well, it's just maybe a different interpretation. I think what they've done is they've made a reference to that story and added to the and added Petra as also one of the wonders. So it's like one wonder is the people, the companions of the cave. The other wonder is Petra itself as part of the overall wonders. But we know we can, inscription might work as well. In fact, I can see how that would work as well. So I suppose.
I think the simple explanation is Ashab al-Kahf and Raqib. So it doesn't give a place. And it means and their inscription. So their names are inscribed. And you have the cave in Ephesus, 7 places of it. That's why Yaqub of Suruj, he just chose 7. He had to, because this is the cave. So the place was in Ephesus. It has nothing to do with Petra. This just came as a coincidence later. This is just my opinion.
Yeah, that's all right. Interesting.
So this is all I have to say now. I will conclude and put all that we said into points. Then I want to know your opinion.
Cool.
To wrap this up, Moses took his people, the Israelites, to Mount Sinai, which is Masjid al-Haram, as God told him. He ascended into heaven, which is al-Masjid al-Aqsa, as the Babylonian Talmud states. Not just the Babylonian Talmud, but you have the idea of the ascension of Moses multiple times before. Also the ascension of Abraham. Basically, everyone had his own ascension. This was just like a story attached to everyone. This is logical because Surah 17 used to be called Bani Israel, which is the children of Israel. The Shia has a similar notion that Muhammad never went to Jerusalem, but ascended into heaven. So you have like basically another sect of Islam, which might have been the original, saying that it never happened. The Sunnis, on the other hand, made up the Muhammad night journey later, possibly relying on the Zoroastrian ascension. You see, Zoroaster, of course, he had an ascension. And this is the most close one to Muhammad. And I think the Sunnah, in general, they are more like Iran influenced. So maybe they took it from Zoroaster. If Bala is listening to this, he will have a better idea. I'm not sure which one they copied exactly on Muhammad. But you see, even in the night journey of Muhammad, you see that he was going with Moses, and he asked Moses to lower down the prayer times and stuff. So Moses is still in their head. You
Yeah.
see?
So rather than taking Moses out, what they did is they added Muhammad into the story.
Yes, and said that Muhammad he prayed and everyone was behind him. Moses and Jesus and everyone. So that he is the last one, of course, and the best one.
Oh, this is great stuff, man.
Now they deceitfully impose this myth onto the Quran to cement the idea of Muhammad flying to Jerusalem. So this is the second thing that the Sunni did, not the Shia. Also, they deceitfully renamed Surah 17 to Al-Isra, which means the night journey. So they cast out the Israelites, which is the old name, forever.
Mhm.
That's what happened. Now, what do you think?
I think it's a rock solid theory, to be honest. It'd be interesting to know when the name change happened. Would it be, could we suggest sometime like the 9th century? Do we have Qurans with the old name and then the new name? Would that be right?
The problem is we have till now, as I showed you in the
Oh
second
yeah,
slide,
we have different versions. Yeah, of course we do. Yeah,
yeah, we have different versions till now, and
yeah,
we do not have any outside source saying when did this change happen.
right. Okay.
So we will have to guess. My guess is it has to do with Abdul Malik. He is probably the one who had the interest to do something like this. And Abdul Malik is hated really in the Sunni sources a little bit, and they say that he actually his his main man, which is Al Hajjaj, destroyed the Kaaba and wanted people to go to Jerusalem. So maybe this is what happened.
Yeah, my feeling is that he took a religion, a sect of Judaism, which was focused on Moses. And if you imagine Moses is like a doll, he plucked the Moses head off and put the Muhammad head onto it. That's essentially the beginnings of Islam. It's just a refocus to make it an Arabic religion focused on the Arabic language and Arabic history, and it was all very much based like that. So I know my impression is it took a few decades for his theologians to produce the Quran and went through lots of editions. So I'd be inclined to say that even though it fits with Abdul Malik making that change, I think it might have been something that happened after that time. I think originally he was okay with this being a story about Moses, and he was under the Abbasids where they introduced Muhammad as the person flying to Jerusalem. That would be my take. That would make it the 750s, 760s when they introduced that, and that would fit in with around the time of the Sirah being written.
It could be that it was written post the Abbasids to get back Jerusalem. Maybe. So we can't know for sure.
Yeah,
But what we do know is that this myth was composed so that you stay in Jerusalem and that you hold this place, which is the most important place that had, of course, the Jewish temple and stuff. So either way, who came up with it, when, why, what we are 100% sure is that this story was made up to conquer Jerusalem and hold it forever.
yeah, yeah, definitely. It's great. It's a great theory. It's just another um, building block in the overall picture and a very important piece, and it kind of confirms my own research that has been going on a parallel track, if you like. It just confirms my hunch that it's very much a Judeo-Christian sect that has had Muhammad added to make it a distinctly Arabic one, you know. But
Yes,
that's
that's
an amazing
the
bit.
Arabic. The Arabic was only an identity. Like
Yeah,
if today you say I am an American patriot, this is the Arabic. When Muawiyah did the Hijrah, he he didn't do, of course, a hijra. I mean, when he did the dates, he called it the Arabic dates. So when he took the when Heraclius gave him the country, he now dates by the Arabic, not by a hijra. So this is also important.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that was brilliant, Murad. I think that's probably a good place to end, and I'd encourage our viewers to leave their comments below and share what they think. And I'm sure there's probably people out there who can probably find other elements to add to this theory in support of your idea. So thank you very much.
Thank you for that.
I'm just going to stop recording now and we'll just see it.